Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, January 8th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the NFL playoff power rankings. In this segment, we turn our attention to the NBA, a huge game currently going on between the Thunder and the Cavs. We're going to talk about all 30 teams in a little rundown of the NBA power rankings. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, January 8th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the NBA power rankings here, starting off at number 30, and I think continually the worst team in all of potentially professional sports. It's the Washington Wizards. The Wizards here at number 30, they've got a young team, I think a bright future, honestly, if they can continue to develop right. They just need to be patient. For now, just the worst team. They've got a couple of wins in the last couple of weeks. Still not quite there. They just lost to the Pelicans. They're not looking very good. They're at number 30. Those Pelicans are at 29. Injuries have completely decimated this team. They're still here, and really they're in that bottom tier with a couple of other teams like the Hornets at 28, the Jazz at 27, Raptors at 26, and the Blazers at 25. Those six teams in the NBA are just bottom of the barrel, right? They're competing for the lottery. They're trying to go get Cooper Flagg, trying to go get Ron Harper, whichever one they want more in the college basketball draft. But those six teams at the bottom, they're ready for next season. A couple things that they can pay attention to is just how they develop their young guys, right? Some guys are down here because of injury. Some are down here because they're young. Some are down here just because they are bad right now. But still, you go out there, you hit on a couple of picks. That's how you quickly turn this around, especially in the game of basketball. The Nets start off that next tier at 24. The Nets here have a couple of pieces that I like to build around. They've traded away guys that were making them be a little more successful, and they're falling back down to earth like we expect them to, right? They were expected to be really bad this year. They traded for their own picks back so they could get those better picks from the Rockets. Now it's starting to fix itself. They're back near the bottom of the league where they expect to be. Injuries still hurting this team a little bit, but I do see a glimmer of hope as long as they can hit on one or two draft picks this season. Could be a quick rebuild. 76ers at 23, and this is just a nightmare season for them, right? They go out and they get Paul George. They expect there to be a huge big three, and granted, they've been a little bit better, but injuries have taken away promising rookie performers. Injuries have taken away a lot of time from their real big stars on the court as well, and they're sitting at the bottom of the league outside looking in on the playoffs. They need to turn that around very quickly. Bulls at 22, they've been playing a lot better as of late. Vucevic has been amazing all season long. This is not a team I really believe in too much. I think they should be sellers at the deadline, but if we know the Bills at all, they're probably not going to sell. They're probably going to try and add, actually, because that's just what the Bulls have been doing all decade long, really. 21, we have the Hawks. I love Trae Young. Trae Young is awesome. He hits that half-court shot, that buzzer beater to win against the Jazz last night. Still, though, this is a Hawks team that had to hit a buzzer beater against the Jazz last night. Not great. Their defense, especially with some of the guys that are missing due to injury right now, have not been the best. This is a Hawks team that at the beginning of the season was playing really good ball against some of the best teams in the league. They handed the Cavs their first two losses of the season, right? That's not something that's easy to do. The Cavs continue to dominate the league right now. The Hawks at 21, though. At 20, we have the Suns, and this is a team that I think could get immediately better. I think they're the landing spot for Jimmy Butler. I think basically a 1-for-1 for Beal and Butler. There's probably going to be a little bit more on the Suns side to send over to the Heat as far as making it work for the Heat to be happy. But I think that's the one that makes the most sense to me. The Suns desperately need that help. I think Bradley Beal, regardless of if that happens, coming off the bench is good for the Suns. He might not like it, but it's good for the Suns having him lead that second unit, kind of let him be that volume scorer that he wants to be. He's not getting to be with Booker and Durant on the floor at the same time. In 19, we have the Heat. So many issues with that team, right? And it has to do with culture. That's not something you expected out of Miami. That Heat culture is a real thing, but Jimmy Butler is out, and they need to get good return if they want to make a run into the playoffs this year as they expected to. They just didn't want to give him that contract, and that's going to be something that needs to be paid attention to. The Heat at 19 need to quickly turn it around, although I'm honestly not too worried about them because this is kind of what the Heat do every year, right? They kind of hang out near the bottom in that play-in area and then turn it on when they need to. At 18, we have the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is an alien, right? There's no other way to describe it, right? He's insane. He has 70 straight games with a block. That's not normal, right? He's 7'4". He shoots threes. He's got unlimited range. He is going to be the next big thing in the NBA. Honestly, he probably already is. They need to build around him. They've done a really good job this season, but they're still sitting around 500. They don't quite have everything that they need. I think in the next couple seasons, the Spurs are really going to take off, but teams need to start taking care of them right now. At 17, we have the Kings. This is a Kings team that fired their coach. They've started to be a little bit better. I don't think they needed to fire their coach, but maybe that was the kick in the pants that the Kings needed to turn their season around. I don't know how successfully the Kings really are going to be able to turn their season around. They're sitting near the middle of the league. I don't think it's enough in the Western Conference. The Warriors at 16 are another team that I think are in on that Jimmy Butler deal, right? Jimmy Butler, another one of those guys. The Warriors, another one of those teams that are kind of trying to pry their championship window open. They're kind of losing that battle a little bit to age. Steph Curry is great. Draymond Green is playing really good basketball right now, actually. The rest of the roster is young. They started off as one of the hottest teams in the league. They've started to cool down a little bit, a couple injuries. If they're able to get Jimmy Butler, that's a huge leap. I just don't really see it happening. Pistons at 15 have been really good, though. Huge surprise for a lot of people, including me. Cade Cunningham is really coming into form that we saw him show flashes of last season. A lot of young talent on that team has been unlocked this year, and it's really good to see the Detroit Pistons be a much better team, find their way potentially even into the playoffs this year. At 14, we have the Pacers. This is one of those teams I'm a little disappointed in. They've really started to turn it around. I like Tyrese Halliburton, but he's just not consistent enough to be that true number one star that the Pacers need. Timberwolves at 13. They lost that trade. They lost that trade when they sent Cat over to the Knicks. That was a mistake. I don't know why they chose Gobert over Cat, but that's what they did. They got to live with that consequence now. They had to stay under the second apron, get rid of one of them, and I don't think they were getting too many offers for Gobert. So this is where we are now. Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are starting to play a little bit better. Ant has been absolutely amazing all season long, but it's not that same level of Timberwolves that we saw them be last year. The Clippers at 12, that new arena has been really good. They're getting Kawhi back soon. That's going to be huge for them. They've kind of fallen off a little bit from the beginning of the season since we last did our power rankings, but still hanging around near the top 10. Bucks at 11, Giannis is amazing, right? Giannis is just great at basketball. I'm curious what's going to happen with Chris Middleton. They announced that they're going to move him to the bench. I don't know if that means they're going to be trading him. I don't know how that's going to go, who they're going to get back for him. Potentially Jimmy Butler there, but I don't really see why the Heat would trade in the Eastern Conference if they got plenty of suitors out west. LeBron and the Lakers stay in the top 10 for me. LeBron at 40 years old is still doing LeBron James things. It's crazy. That team it's not the best, but really they're kind of sitting in that second tier of the NBA, maybe the third tier of the NBA, where they're not quite really championship contenders, but if they get hot, they can make a deep run in the playoffs. The Magic at 9, and they're just hit with the injury bug, right? I want to keep them up in here because they play really good basketball, but when the injury bug is hitting them the way that it is right now, it's tough to see, right? They're getting Paolo back, and that's going to be huge. I'm curious how much of a boost he will provide, but losing both of the Wagner brothers is just brutal for them for the year. Mavs at 8, another team bit with the injury bug. Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, both out. They're a little shorthanded, still finding a way to win games. That is huge to see for Mavs team that is coming off of a second place in the NBA last year. Nuggets at 7. They need more help for Jokic. That's it. One sentence review of the Nuggets. They need more help for Jokic. Is still playing like the MVP of this league. He's ridiculous. I love that pairing with him and Westbrook. I think that was really good of them to go get, but it's not enough. They need a little bit more help. Maybe they can load up at the trade deadline. At number 6, this is where I think we're starting to get into the contender territory right now. The Rockets, they're here. A little bit of unrest from some of their younger players. We saw that after a win against the Wizards pretty recently, but I still love Tari Eason coming off the bench, who has been amazing for them. Everyone on that young team has really taken a big step up. People are talking about them trading for Jimmy Butler, who really is that big fish of the free agent, or the who's that big fish of the trade deadline market. I just don't see it happening right now, and the Rockets stay at number 6. The Knicks, who were a super hot team, are starting to cool off. They're at number 5 still. A real contender in the East, probably definitely the third best team in the East in my mind, and one of the 3 teams in the East that I can really see making a run at all. The Grizzlies at 4. I love this Grizzlies team so much. This Grizzlies team is young, it's fast, it's entertaining, and they're one of those teams in the West that I think could really make a run. But there's a clear separation between the top 3 teams and everybody else, right? The Celtics are just a complete team. They're going to turn it on later. They're going to be great. I have no worries about this Celtics team, but they are behind the top 2 who are playing tonight, and that is the Cavs and the Thunder. I think the Thunder win tonight, so I have them above them at number 1. The Thunder also come in on a 15-game win streak. It's ridiculous. It really is. They are awesome. Both of these teams are great. It's a heavyweight clash right now, but let me know what you think. Who's the top team in the NBA? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, one final segment for the day. We have a little bit of discussion surrounding Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, a really interesting figure in sports right now, right? A lot of fans in Pittsburgh want him out. A lot of fans outside of Pittsburgh would love to see him out as well, so they could coach their team. But we'll talk about what that is coming up actually tomorrow. So thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow covering Mike Tomlin, a couple previews for college football playoffs that kick off tomorrow as well. We'll be back then. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.